As an example, Pluto is now in Capricorn of recent, right? It was in Sagittarius for for a whole generation, correct? So the higher knowledge and consciousness rose very high with Pluto being in Sagittarius, because that's your higher knowledge, spirituality, mental exploration, correct? But if you notice back in June, 7 months, let's say 9 months ago now, because it came in November for good, right? It did come in from Sagittarius into Capricorn, and it represented and dealt with government. And everybody started recognizing what was going on with government, and that became a highlighted incident. Well, wow, you know, I can't recall all the specifics, but you know what I'm talking about, because that's the energy. The light is on government, exactly. It did that, and it did that for 3 months. It warned you of where it was coming and what it was going to be doing. You understand where the mercy is? Then it went back to Sagittarius, cap up for all those who needed a little bit more, enlightenment there. And then it came back, and it stays now in Pluto, governing governments or dealing with governments, discipline and order, and resources of the earth, where that applies, for, I believe it's 25 years this time, a whole generation. So that is how the gods are merciful, and that is why I wanted to give you the planet so you would understand what the source was. And now as we move on later into dealing with your own charts and where the energies are, you'll be able to discern by knowing what energies the planets emit, what they're doing in your chart, and how they relate as you go through your moving chart or your transitional chart of where you are today, right? Now, with that being the case, I wanted to just get that out of the way so I could cap up, as I said in the email, what that was all about, because we had a very interesting conversation last week that led out of that. But today, this evening, we're going to have mock court. And let's on. And we're ready over there, right? Our original law firm, Cheyenne, is almost ready. There he is, right? He's coming in the door now. All right. So we don't get started. I guess we're going to start with him. He's coming in as well. But some of you may remember Brother Nico, right? Yes. So of course, you know, he's going to be the judge today, just because he looks like he might be a good judge. But that's a brother, more, of course. And he's been in and out of these systems. I don't mean the system, I mean the courts, paperwork. He's very well versed with that, correct? It was all about dishonor and honor. So his position is he knows when the court or the judge is not being honored or dishonored from their position. Is that correct? Right? I'm saying it right. So that's why he's going to make an excellent judge, because he's aware of how they work with it. And I don't even need to tell you about what Tarik is. I mean, there's a couple other people here. Where's Brother Rod? Where did he go? There he is over there. He's been in the courtroom quite a few times. We want to try and, as I said in the email, eliminate the fear that is conditioned that's already there, because it really is a stage. It really is fictitious. It truly is. And I think a lot of you have been doing a lot of studies to know that that is true, just from what you've been reading. And exactly. So now we need to know what that stage is. So before we get started, I guess, Cheyenne, you can fill him in when he comes in, right? So I'm going to let you just present or do a precursor here. Yeah. So we're going to bring up Taj right now to give you an idea of what's planned for today.
Stand, it doesn't work anyway. Anyway, the first thing we want to say is that the whole court system is a fraud anyway, and it's a mockery anyway. So it's not, what we want to do is not just simply go through a short session of after they kidnap you and you deal with them. Because court is both society and that room, and it's really paperwork. All right? But the real deal is what you have to keep in mind, and this is also where people are use the UCCs to get out, etc. You know, just like if you look for the bond, get somebody out on Form 90, something like that. What you really want to do is make people conscious, because ultimately the issue is nationality. Who has the controlling power? Because they operate under color, evil in your right. You understand? All right. And so I want to make some points also relative to what Great Seal is about. Great Seal is about Moors who are active. That means you're back into your proper person. And I want to make another point. Nationalization, or like when you nationalize, the principle is that you're returning that which belongs to a nation, which includes persons and things. And overall, you're going to be arguing the issue of jurisdiction. Now, the jurisdiction comes basically in three parts, and that is specified or specific jurisdiction, personam jurisdiction, and jurisdiction of the matter. And so you always keep that in mind, all right? And they're claiming a jurisdiction in the matter and personam jurisdiction. But you should always make sure, even though they're colored anyway, that the jurisdiction remains with specific, meaning that the specific jurisdiction is verified with a questioning of their claim to the jurisdiction, or their claim of being a surety holder, or anything else concerning yourself. You do that with a bill of particulars in a writ of discovery. That's what those instruments are for. Now, relative to Great Seal, what Great Seal's function is, and this is for people who, when others are trying to sell them packages in the name of sovereignty, you can't sell sovereignty because it's not for sale. If you're trying to buy it, you're already being played. Do you understand? When you're dealing with an order of government, basically your dues within that order, when that sheet of paper comes out that's dealing with any legal notices, etc., is what it costs. That just simply comes from your dues. It's of course 50 cents to print that paper. That's what it is. That's what it is. Say it loud.
How do I pay dues? Hold on.
No, that's what the Great Seal orders are for. That's for people who are, who've been fooled and misrepresented, where it's been misrepresented to them by people who've been selling packages in the name of selling them sovereignty. The sovereignty is the nation, and it can't be sold. If someone's trying to sell it, you dishonor your own nation, and then there's no law behind it, because the law, the jure law, is based in honor, integrity. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so you can't call even someone who's bound by law and treaty, you can't call them to the table when you come to the table in dishonor. You know, so it's not like a lot of times people say, well, I did this and this ain't working. It's not necessarily that, because remember, the judges on Masons, they stole your birthright in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? And most of the roadblocks that are put in place to have caused this situation in the first place is them having stolen your birthright and stolen our gold, which is why they're here. They just got comfortable. Did you understand? So when you're approaching any of this thing from any other perspective, not understanding who's who and why they're doing what they're doing, your concepts will be wrong. And then often, when we look at how do I proceed? When you're looking at procedures, just like if you come in pro se, they're going to alter your papers and make it. I mean, if you come in propria persona, they will alter your documents when they're dealing with them and put on it that the litigant is coming pro se, which is they're tampering with the documents.
You gotta object on it,
Huh?
You have to object to it.
Always, and be conscious of everything they do, because what they're trying to do, remember, specific jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction over the person, and jurisdiction in the matter. So the jurisdiction comes in triplicities. So you want to make sure that they're always coming at you from specific. Of course, when they do, they really don't have it anyway. But that's the only lawful way they can come, because they're undercover, and because it's not really a lawful court in the first place, which you already know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, one of the things that I want to remind people You know how like people get into this argument about because there is no money? Bullshit. While there is none, that's really not the issue. It never really was. But if you get caught up in arguing that your concept is wrong, you're under occupation, that's the problem. And you have an organized body of criminals called the Congress that keep pointing your fingers to the bankers so that you don't pay attention to it, that it's them. You get the whole point? This whole 14th Amendment fraud is why Noble Raleigh told the Moors that the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation and the defense of my people and the citizens. And why he told you to enforce the Constitution, because the Constitution comes from the Equal Confederation and also from the ancient laws of the Moors. That's the last vestige of de jure law. That wasn't drafted. They're not the founding fathers. We are. Do you understand? Well, they were ministers plenipotentiary who were appointed by us to deal or to treat with us for the United States of America as the transformation of some jurisdictional powers were taken from societas y algoricanos, which is the true United States, which is ancient indigenous peoples' government. This is the reason why they would represent George Washington as the first, though George Washington represented the point where the transference took place.
He was selected, right?
Where we brought them into government. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they discount the other predators so that you don't look at the history and then recognize the political tie so that you cannot bring them to law. You understand? Because when you look at the law, you take the treaties of Marrakesh, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and you staple that to all four of the constitutions. From the Articles of Association, Confederation Association, Independence, and the present day convention. Because all of them,
If anyone has a question,
yes, because all of them are one. And so you got to keep in mind when you're talking to them, even though they don't operate from that because they're colored, that all of those constitutions are in effect. And so when people keep thinking about, that one federal constitution, the last convention, the last legitimate call.
7 and 10.
Do you understand 1789 with George?
I mean, it says 7 articles and 10.
Raj,
Hold on, I'll get this mic.
is it on?
Yes. It says
7 articles of the Constitution. It's got 10 amendments.
Yeah, everything after that is negative law.
everything after 7 is 10.
Is negative law. Now that's not so important. What we're doing, we're putting it in its place.
But that is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, so we're putting it in its place. But we're not saying to you that that's your total remedy. We're just informing because people look at those documents wrong. And so you take the treaties and you take the Constitution and you staple them together because that's the Constitution. And a lot of people look at them as separate, and that's where part of the misconception evolved. Of course, you take them and you staple them to the Constitution.
All the way back to 69, right?
Yes. And so you take them and you staple them. And it was, don't look at them as different documents. When you do, yes, when you do, your concepts will be wrong. You understand what I'm saying? That's Great Seal. But this is why it was necessary for them, like people commonly talk about the straw. They commonly, talk about the straw, all capital letters. The first straw is Negro back of color.
That's the first one.
Yes, and there's Smith, Jones, and Johnson, where people transacting business in names that don't belong to them. The capital letters only represent the corporate entity coming with the 14th Amendment to fool Europeans, servitude holders, and also Moors who were servitude holders in the issue of compensation that never occurred. So they transfer the responsibility or they manumitted to the Congress to carry out the Inquisition policy. So people keep forgetting that the ones who are overthrowing the Republican form of government are Inquisitions. If you get caught in this idea of, oh, they're racist, you don't know what you're talking about. You understand what I'm saying? Or they don't like you. Yes, and then you get on that argument. It's not really the issue. You're under occupation. The politics that's taking place in North America, Central America, South America is Inquisition policy from the Spanish Inquisition, which is the Inquisition against the Moors. The courts aren't legitimate because those who are ruling aren't legitimate. They didn't come from, it's not an issue where, these are good courts and they went bad. They were rotted from the door.
Well, can't you call into mind
The delegation of authority order.
The delegation of authority order, when you deal with the delegation of authority order, look at Article 6. And then you understand why none of the politicians, nor the municipality, officers of the municipalities will acknowledge the republic. They always say this democracy thing. All right? That's a code. That's the code for the overthrow.
So when you call for that in status, you call for delegation of authority and status.
Now, that would be a bill of particulars or writ of discovery that would be entered to them before you
get
your physical body. Unless they kidnap you, then that's where your order is concerned. And also, I want to remind everybody, this is for the floor.
Yeah.
Why is it that you sign when you come in here?
Oh, we signed for your presence.
That's for anybody.
Yeah.
Do you know why we ask you to sign when you come in? Raise your hand, those who know why we ask you to sign.
Document participation in the Great Seal.
Yes. That is so that as time passes and you become more conscious of why you're here, that is a record that you are operating in your Moorish affairs that would be recognized by active national principles all over the world in any court. Do you understand? So when you're meeting, dealing with any issues that deal with the national principle, sign in. Because now if you make an argument or an issue in any of their culpable courts, and a counselor, someone who's assigned, Qazi, the Vizier, is assigned to go treat with them because they have one of your citizens, you have a record to back up that person, naturally, has been acknowledging their national right to act and to fulfill their learning processes in returning to their own culture and their own government that already exists. That will go along with any national ID that you may have or any other notices that you may have sent out. I'm only throwing that at you to put you in the right frame of mind, because the mock court is really not that important in the sense other than that they do a lot of kidnapping. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
what's good in the sense of
We need to hear you on it.
Islam. Islam.
All right.
We had 4 constitutions, right?
Yes.
We had 4 constitutions. The first one was the Article of Association, 1774.
Yeah.
The second one was the Article...
Talk directly so they can hear.
It's not working. The second was...
It wasn't on, you cut it off.
The second one was the Article of Confederation,
Yes.
1776.
Yes.
The third was the Declaration of Independence,
Yes.
1778. And the last and final constitution was the present-day constitution, 1789.
Yes.
The same year that George Washington became the 9th president.
That he was appointed,
1789
yes.
appointed the 9th
Now,
president.
this also must be remembered. Anything after that 10 is negative law, because we had no other constitutional conventions. You understand? Because in order to alter that, you have to have a convention. So anything that they talk about as law after that, it's not law. All right? And all you're talking about basically is, that is basically an emanation from the treaties of peace. It's actually a draft of operations for both Moors and Europeans. That's a peace, that's actually, the Constitution is actually a contract for them to do business in these dominions. The trick is that they overthrew the Republican forms of government, particularly in the South, right? And then they connotatively put people in slavery where they stood. Do you understand? Now that's connotative because you already know that slave means sloppy. That's not the identity of anyone, all right? And then, you know, of course, meanwhile, around the world, they were burning books anyway in order to block us out of history, which is why most of the Asiatics here don't know that they're indigenous. So they don't think from that perspective. There's another reason why you sign that. Do you understand? So your concepts of what law actually is, which is actually yourself, has to be in your mind all the time, no matter what you're doing, whether you're in a mock court, whether you're producing documents, whatever. But understand, the birthright belongs to you. It's not something that somebody can give to you. It's not, you know, it's not where, you know, some guy got a title and he's superior to you. No, that's bull. Even the smallest person with a nationality got the same birthright as the person sitting on the throne. Once you understand that, you know, your concept of how you should be dealing with of those people in the color of court should be clearer. You know what I mean? And so the deal of it is, and then you also look at it like this. You know, like a lot of people say, well, since there's no money, you know, and since England, you know, is controlling the UCCs to do their thing, to control, quote unquote, the colonists, they're talking about the U.S. Democracy Corporation. It's not the United States Republic. You know, and their debt has nothing to do with you. So you don't need to discharge anything. You just got a bunch of criminals operating, pretending to be government, and they're talking to you, and you're talking back to them as if they're the sovereign. Thank you. So even if they force you to deal with them or to trade with them, never think of them as the sovereign. You get that totally out of your mind. Look at it with no more respect than you're coming out, you walk out this door, right? And somebody put a gun to you and say, there's some tight earrings in one of them. You respect him because he got the gun, but don't ever respect him with honor. And that's how you have to think, and that's how you got to teach the children from when they're young, so they don't get in their mind that they're ever dealing with the sovereign. Ever.
I'd just like to add a quick thought.
Something that strikes me as shocking to a conscience of a person who owns one. And unfortunately, it seems like this population, this so-called society, is losing their consciences big time by the day. But our so-called sovereign nation, our so-called sovereign government, does something as outrageous as goes into bankruptcy. For example, in 1913, which probably everybody here knows about. How can a sovereign be bankrupt when the treaties or the Constitution says issue money? It's so outrageous, so sick, and everybody goes along with it. We are the sovereign just because we believe we are, and these people, as this brilliant man just pointed out many times, they're just a pack of sick criminals.
Yes. And if you think of them from any other perspective while you're dealing with them, your concepts are already wrong. So the first thing, we're going through mock court mainly because many people that end up in the fort is not because they go there, because you don't belong there anyway. We know that. The problem is that they kidnap people. They use what is called arbitrary. And they're operating under perjury of oath. Keep these in mind because these are points by which you want to sue them. Perjury of oath. Arbitrary. Those are just a couple. We can name some others, but we want to get you in that frame of mind. But also it's back to even as we talked many times, that you're going to have to change your language. You're going to have to get more astute in understanding universal Latin. Universal Latin is English. All right? It's not really English like you think, it's universal Latin. It's a business language. For business and spells. It's for casting spells and for business. All right? So you're going to need to learn the rules of how that language works, because they're also making contracts with you.
What form of language is that?
Say it again.
What form of language is that?
It's really universal Latin. It's about 70% Latin. It's Gaelic. It's German. Some Sanskrit origins, but basically it's mostly Moorish Latin. All right, they call it Spanish. They ain't Spanish, and we're not Spanish. Just understand that Spanish was put in place by the Emperor Philip when we had a rebellion in 1511 in the land of flowers and in Borican that they call Puerto Rico. And then they declared that everything that is Moorish will be claimed by the church. And so Moorish Latin became known as Spanish. And the Moors in the south area became known as Spanish. They're not Spanish. You understand? Borican became known as Richport or Puerto Rico, which it is not. Do you understand? And they murdered and slaughtered the women and the children because people wouldn't submit. Also, most of the gold was with the women, and so they cut the women's heads off because we usually had the gold around. It didn't come off. It wasn't being rings because the wealth was carried by the sisters, and so they had murdered so many women that the islands, the 3 islands, were almost wiped out. And so they brought Moors from around the surrounding islands and repeopled Borican. And they used the young sisters for sex slaves for the priests, which is why many of your Borican are lighter complexion, but they're still Moors. So you need to know your history in order to understand the politics here in North America. Do you understand? And in South America. Because if you don't, you'll feed into divisions. You'll start thinking we're different people. You'll start playing the race game. All of that stuff is fiction. They stole your birthright. That's what it is. And they're pretending to be the sovereign. This is why it's important for you not to get caught up in the crayon game. You know, light-skinned green people, orange-skinned purple people, you know, that stuff. And light-skinned black shoes, and that stuff's fiction. Total fiction. And if you feed into it, you lose. Islam.
With respect to the republic versus the democracy, with respect to the republic versus the democracy, with that said, once a person has aligned himself for the record and on the record with the republic, such as what we're doing right here,
Yeah.
they then have the right to come in and sue the U.S. democracy because it's doing business as a private corporation, which makes it subject to Clearfield Doctrine.
Yes, now, and then look at this too. And I want to show you this. Now, Adolf Hitler, Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez as an example. No matter whether you use the point of a number or a phrase, the principle is the same all across the world. To save a nation when it's being attacked by others who are occupying it and or if they're undermining it financially, etc., it's called nationalization. So don't get caught up in what the historians are telling you. You need to understand how governments operate. And you need to understand why Noble Drawley nationalized you in 1913. Now, and you need to know why you're signing that paper over there. Because once you're national, and you really understand that you're national, you'll come together and then you'll start drafting things and sending them some tax records. And demand that back you're not going to ask for reparations. And you can't get reparations as no Negro, black, or color, and no Indian, because we're not Indians. Do you understand what I'm saying? Though we're indigenous. Because you cannot be who your forefathers were not, because they didn't make no treaties. We did. They didn't set this government up. We did. You understand what I'm saying to you? And you can't be the left-hand feathers Moors, and then you be the black shoes green Moors. We're Moors. If you feed into that division, you're giving him another mandate. And that's it. You are who your forefathers were, without doubt or contradiction. If you contradicted, your laws were. Do you understand? You can go all around the world, but you cannot get up except who you fell down as. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And that's the last legal name of these people that have been branded. And so the issue is, you can't call national claims even the sovereign who you are, unless you honor your mothers and your fathers. Because that's where the law came from. And so if you're not who your mother and father are, you can't claim the law. That's it. Even though you may be in a battle. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I want to make that point clear. So while we're talking, excuse me. Yes. Who was? Yeah.
He's Robert Carolina, he came over from South Carolina.
Where you going to be?
Whatever.
All right.
And before you get started, yeah, he can start because he comes from South Carolina, so they be opposing it down there. The judges, the magistrates down there know what's going on when it comes to trial down South Carolina. Yeah, y'all definitely demonstrate. Right. But before we go on, everyone saw the Pope come and they saw the coat of arms. Heard about the coat of arms? Oh, you saw that, right? Oh, yes. All right. Yeah, it's all here. And he's sitting, look at that, happy as he can be, right up under the Moorish coat of arms. Don't be fooled.
Right.
All right.
Bring that in so I can get it.
What? Bring what in?
So the coat of arms.
Oh, the coat of arms. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I think spacing.
Back up. Good. Okay.
Want to bring it closer? You got
That's good. I got it.
No, she's showing me.
Yeah, down in South Carolina, you
But you already know. Everybody.
demonstrate the 73 chords. We use that a lot down there. Yeah.
Now, he goes going to be the judge.
Here comes the judge now. Here comes the judge.
What's up? Order in this court.
How y'all doing? Brother Nick going to be the judge tonight. So when they're going through certain processes or explaining certain concepts, or when we get into role play, I'm going to be bringing up certain points that they're bringing up, or I might add my own input of a particular concept or something that I've seen in the past, and, or a different approach or a different way of looking at things.
Be good. You keep that with you.
Tell them what occurs when they come to court.
Okay, basically, when you're entering into a court and you're trying to challenge them, as the brother was saying, on in personam jurisdiction or subject matter, there's different ways of approaching that. Say if you get something in the mail in your corporate name, in contract law, there's a thing called offer and acceptance. So anytime you get something in the mail, you have 72 hours to either honor that or dishonor that. So if you want to challenge them on, say, in personam, you have to take care of that, challenge them on that subject matter, or the in personam within that 72 hours is this basic contract law. Now, that's the first arrangement. Now, if you make it past, if you don't get past that stage and you do find yourself where you're appearing in the court on the second, that's where if they have paperwork, you're going to have to challenge the subject matter jurisdiction through various questioning, whether they have an oath of office on file, and then through when they're trying to give you all these different legal opinions, they're going to try to trick you into arguing. So the whole concept I'll be explaining as well is anytime that you argue, you've already lost. You want to stay in a position where you're always cross-examining them, cross-examining the judge, cross-examining the police officer, or if you're challenging paperwork there in the court, they want you to sign something, you know, you refuse to sign it. You know, because their whole concept is they're trying to get you to attach your natural person to that legal fiction. And through the honor dishonor process, each step of the way, it's just that if you messed up on the first step, on that second or third step during the trial or appeal, or that first arrangement in the court, you just have to, you're just going to need a longer rope to dig yourself out of to challenge them on certain points that it was mentioned earlier about certain procedures that they don't follow correctly, you know, that you can sue them on later. So I'll just leave it at that for now, and then as we go along, certain things that I'll see, I'll point out to you guys.
All right, so now the court is started. The first thing they say is, all rise, all rise. Very good, nobody knows, because you should not do that as the Mormons when you come into the courtroom. And then the judge comes in, and usually they're so fake that they even have a tape. Have you gone there lately? They have a tape that's recorded that says, you know, this is the courtroom. What's the judge's name today? Judge Nicanor? Nicanor. Brother Judge Nicanor. Brother Judge Nicanor. And they'll have a tape that says, you know, this is the courtroom of whatever the municipality is, and it'll be on a tape. That's how they do it. A few of them will say, and I've heard this, they'll say, if you want a probable cause hearing, you have a right to have a probable cause, and then they go right past that. There's only a few that I have heard that will actually say that before court, and most of us miss it, because upon asking for a probable cause hearing, I guarantee you, your stuff will be thrown out if you were to go that route, because there is no probable cause in 99.9% of the time that you're coming into court. So, when I hear a judge that says, or a magistrate that says that from a municipality, I'm like, all right, he's giving you your way out, but you just don't know it. All right? So
what do we give the silent treatment to that?
huh?
We give the silent treatment to that.
To what? To the probable cause? What do? We don't ask for a probable cause hearing. If one were going to do that, I'm saying you can.
If he mentions
If he,
it, we give it a silent treatment.
no, we don't, oh, you mean what ought we do? Oh, yeah, well, depending on how you're coming into courtroom to defend or to special appearance, it depends on what you're going to be doing. But I'm saying even those who may, like some people have to take baby steps into the courtroom. We got two powerful things going on here today. One is those who come into the courtroom knowing exactly who they are and what they're going to, you know, jurisdiction is first. Period. They don't get past it. They don't get past jurisdiction in the courtroom. Then there's the others that are coming in learning, and they all might want to go ahead and what he calls argue the case. But I'm saying if they're going to take that rule up, they could just, you could say probable cause and it's gone. Hearing.
What about status?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, first thing is status. I didn't mean to say jurisdiction. First thing is status. I made that mistake. I'm sorry, I apologize. That's a mistake. So, I just wanted to do the test and ask everybody to all rise to see who's going to rise. All right, in this setting, Brother Cheyenne from the Aboriginal law firm is going to be the prosecutor.
Cheyenne's going to be the prosecutor.
And he's going to be the defendant. And you're going to be the moderator because I'm out. No, you're going to moderate everything that goes on and how it goes on. First thing that happens is usually, who's the defendant? Brother Jelani, you're the defendant. Is that correct? Doing your case. So what happens is in the courtroom, when you go into the circus that they call a courtroom, in some cases even, you'll be coming down the middle of the aisle there of the courtroom. Judge will be up there, right? And excuse me. Right, and want you to pass the bar, which is here. And then what happens is the prosecutors, usually these tables aren't turned this way, but because we want everybody to see, we have it turned the other way, all right? So the prosecutor will, they'll have it so that you'll set up to go talk to the prosecutor before you do anything. Because the prosecutor wants to make a deal with you. right? So that's what most of you do, or most of us do. We go in, talk to the prosecutor, and then after that, it's something else. So we're going to go from there and see what occurred. So, we're going to give you the example of what we're going to give, all right? You'll be all right. We'll have a couple of things, so you'll be all right, all right? So now, the prosecutor is going to be Cheyenne, so he's coming back over to this table. They just set up what they're going to do. The defendant is Brother Jelani from South Carolina. Now, and the judge, of course, is Nico. And the moderators.
Here you go, you finished? What's going to happen here? Now, the first thing usually the prosecutor comes in. The
Now,
comes in, right?
yes, basically,
But we're not going to get into
so let's qualify this. So basically, many times when people in the court, it's because they've kidnapped you. Particularly if you're not willing to contract with them. Because they're cowards. So you got to understand that. What people keep forgetting is because time has passed, they keep forgetting their cowards. And their whole game is exploitation. So under color, they'll do what they call warrantless arrest. That's why they never deal with Amendment 4. Do you understand? Nor 7. All right? So we're not just talking about their processes and whether you're doing their processes right. You got to understand, you got to remember at all times, as soon as you're dealing with them, no other way except they're in your house, robbing. It's just generations that have passed. Don't look at them. If you look at them any other kind of way, your concept will be wrong. Absolutely wrong.
You said metaphor and 7 before. You
Just made mention of metaphor just now. Explanation.
No, I'm saying to you, don't ever forget that when you're dealing, they usually kidnap people when you're not willing to contract with them. All right, under warrantless arrest, most and all of which are unconstitutional. But you got to remember that they're cowards. They take, and this is the key. This is why I always tell people whenever they get caught in the cycle, always have a copy of their constitution, of their oath, their official oath. Because the argument that there ain't no money and the Constitution is suspended and habeas corpus is suspended, they took an oath on that contract to claim that authority, as fraudulent as they are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's the fact that they should be what?
Hold them, you have a right to hold them to their claim. While they're trying to hold you to an unconscionable contract, you're going to hold them to a legitimate contract. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So that's always going to be an evidence. And so the deal of it is, when you come into the court, everything basically you want to have everything that you want to argue already on paper before you get there, if possible. If they kidnap you, this is why you have organizations like this. Any one of you is supposed to be qualified to send documents and paperwork in for anyone else of your nation. That's why it's important to be national. Because there's fundamental laws that operate universally on the planet. They call it common law, but you got to be more specific. So what is your nation in the common law? And where's your treaty to bring you into that universal venue of Article 3, Section 1 and 2? For controversies that occur between, persons and citizens of the same state or different state or foreign states, etc., and they took an oath, and you have a right to hold them to that. So the deal of it is, in bill in particular, or writ of discovery, like Brother was saying, you place all those questions that you would ask him already in that bill in particular. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to send you to the prosecutor, and so all of your argument will be with the prosecutor, but this is what I always say. Whenever you do the documents, always have at least 3 departments that are not related to that department that you send these carbon copies to, including the provost marshal. Do you understand what I'm saying? No. And the reason the provost marshal is because they're colonists and we're under occupation, they have our land divided up into districts. because we're considered booty and prize, booty and prize,
So what does the
both sea and land.
what's the duty of the provost?
The provost marshal is actually the real law official under war powers, which is what that yellow fringe around the flag is. You know how everybody talk about the yellow fringe around the flag, you're under military law? You need to understand, if you're under military law, then there's a provost marshal somewhere for the region. Do you understand? But then they're still obligated under international law, because even when you're operating under color law, there must be some remedies. This is what happens. If say they arrest you under color, and you go through this colorful process in a colorful court, what the provost marshal is really supposed to do is come there, and the sheriff ain't doing his job, you understand? And you have due cause under writ of habeas corpus that they claim to suspended, and you have a nationality, you know, they got to release him, or he has the real obligation to shoot that sheriff right on the spot, literally. I mean, right in the forehead. See, so what you want to do is start commanding to them what they're supposed to be doing since we're under occupation. And like the brother was saying, you know, this unconscionable thing about, you know, these guys and claiming us bankrupt. No, their private corporation is bankrupt. It's not the government. They can't be this foreign U.S. democracy on this hand and then have the authority of the United States Republic over here, and then operate in color with the authority that comes from here to do the criminal act and then be legitimate at any point, including any contract issued by them. So there can't be a debt that you have to discharge even if you're talking about the fiat or the Uniform Commercial Codes. What they want you to do is start making a contract with them that didn't exist in the first daggone place. When you really should be dismissing or disclaiming everything that they constructed. Don't argue the straw man, you can't capture them because they never give up original documents. Do you understand? So this whole idea of people, you know, going to capture the straw man and their birth certificate, as soon as you peel that one off, there's another one. They don't give you original documents, anything. See, because if they didn't have it, they would still operate under color. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the deal is, they're saying, and this is one more thing I want to make a point to, and then we'll get with this real quick. Because most of, when you're dealing with court operations or mock court, you're actually dealing with when you're kidnapped. This is after they're neglecting, even when you're challenging, they're neglecting due process anyhow, and most of the court trials, whether you know law or not, they're going to force you in mainly for the others. And then get them to fund the enslavement of those who know. But because most people are divided with their belief systems and they haven't given up their idol God worship, he already knows that they're a jury for him. You get the whole point? So what you all have to understand is that you're going to have to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Because science is not idol God worship. Do you understand?
Even if you have clip something.
Yeah, we're clipped. See the deal. This is what the deal is. Let me make a point to you so you'll understand. Godding. People think that the word God is a noun. It's a verb transitive. You have to start godding. And godding is once you get conscious and start thinking in a pattern to that which is correct, it starts to manifest. That's how things are made. They're made from thought. The key with the Asiatics of the North Gate not being able to manifest what they're looking for in freedom is because they're locked into belief systems in Islam, Yahudism, that they call Judaism, and there's no Judaism, it's Yahudism. Christianity, Buddhism, etc. And most of the leaders in those different orders have never taken the people past belief, while the sheiks, the rabbis, the reverends, priests all know that that's elementary. Then there's faith. Then there's fruition. Most of the people never learn about fruition. They don't even know it exists. So they get in these religious organizations and swear they've arrived. They're in another form of slavery. Do you understand? Until you rise above belief, because that belief is for kids, those tricks, or for kids. You know, and so until you get somebody past that, you cannot help them to be free. They'll never be free. They will happily project servitude and prepare their children for it. Do you understand? So the learning is not just with understanding how to communicate with them. It's understanding where your mind is as a scientist. Do you understand? All right, and remember this. And this is what makes it uncomfortable, because if you don't give people information where they can understand it for themselves, as long as the people think that God is the noun and the name of the supreme being, they're enslaved. Because the word God doesn't mean what they think it means. That's number one. And it's not ancient either. That's number two. You understand? It has a grammatical meaning and it has a civic, governmental meaning. You know, so you need to know that. You know, and understand that when you're dealing with that judge who's skull and bones, Knights Templar, Knights Malta, you know, Shriner, whoever he may be, all of the foundation is one and the same. And in secret, all of them got their fez, just like the brothers, stand-up brothers with fez. They'll have that fez, and then they'll have the tassel tied down. They'll have the mother, the name of the mother, the lodge on the front. They might be bedecked in jewels, but they'll never wear it. And so that includes the Martin Luther Kings, the Jesse Jacksons, the Reverend Athlete, all of them too. See, so if we don't rescue our people from them, they're done. Because they're minions for the colonists. Do you understand? So if the truth ain't told, you know, you got to tell it like it is. Now, so all of your documents would not be necessarily cussing them out. But all your documents will be operating from the perspective that you already know about the Inquisition. You already know about the codes. Christian Black Code 1724, adopted in all the states. You already know why they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, why the 3630 parallel information was suppressed, while the 18 sections of original 13th Amendment that was actually really passed were not in that Constitution. And they show you two, dealing with slavery and the jurisdictional issue, you know, and what emancipation actually is a transference of responsibility. Nobody was free. What they were doing is simply what Lincoln did was take away the economic, like if you're in war, you attack the resource of your enemy. So in order to stop the South, you understand, from seceding, they attacked their economics. They killed cattle, they poisoned some of the fields and wells, and they put out this field marshal declaration of emancipation for the slaves. But it wasn't what the people think it meant. It was an attack on their resources. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so the people have this concept that the Emancipation Proclamation is a freedom document. It's not. You know, the U.S. democracy has worked quite well. It ain't nothing broke. Just like this mortgage thing, that's not broke. That's not broke. The issue, that's a fulfilling of the Inquisition mission. That is to steal under fraud contract the gold and the real property under the guise of real estate. You understand? Huh? This is why the Federal Reserve, which is part of the Vatican, gave that finance to Morgan, right? To buy the stock from Bear Stearns for 2 notes. And so it wouldn't look like a tie because that's an investment corporation, right? And so it wouldn't look like they're really bankers. You understand? So they gave it to another, when actually, if they wanted to fix this thing, they were giving it to the people with the mortgages that were a fraud. And then it would still went back to the bankers, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm just trying to show you. Huh? The issue was to get the property, and then they claimed to be broke. Now understand that the democracy guys gave them in the last year or more, 560 billion note credits. And they're really energy notes for the taxes or the labor that they're going to steal from the people to compensate for it. Come up from in front.
And just another thing with respect to what Brother Todd said about having that jurisdiction, that the Federal Reserve comes under the Vatican. When you look at the constructs of the way that they set up the governments here, you always have your municipal government, and you have what they call a metropolitan area. Well, metropolitan comes under, that's a secret Catholic order. Yes. Okay, and when El Papa was just here, the Pope, he clearly told you the first Holy See that was set up was in Baltimore. So he's clearly putting on the record, he's actually showing you a way out by showing you the way in. Okay, so this is one of the things, and that's why every head of government, head of state has to meet with the Pope, because he's in control of all civil law and all canon law. And that's when you get into your ecclesiastical jurisdiction versus your municipal jurisdiction and also your civil with the capital C, which is where you have substantive rights. Okay, so I'm just saying that because it's always been that separation of church and state, but the real appearance, but the real deal is that there is no separation of church and state. And most people never really figure that out, and that's this game that's being played. And that's why these priests can do their thing with the little young boys, and when they say it's the such and such parishioner, church with such and such parishioners, a parishioner is a political body under ecclesiastical rule.
That's right.
And so they can never be touched. That unless the parishioners disavow that priest, put it back under the municipal, and that way the state can prosecute them at that point.
That's right.
And that's the only way it can happen.
That's right.
And they're gonna do this all day as long as the people don't wake up.
That's right. And the other thing to pay attention to, everybody knows the thing that the church has been doing to them little boys and girls for years, right? 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 Exactly, right? Including the babies that they got buried underneath a lot of houses. Now notice how, under the guise of one phone call, of alleged, not somebody physically even filing anything, under a phone call, they went and literally attacked families and broke up families with the Mormons. Separated children from their parents, right? They arrested them, literally, right? Attacking their culture, attacking their religion, right? And this is for a phone call.
And they don't have birth certificates.
Right, and they don't have birth certificates. This is another issue. So and this is for those who think that, yes, and this is for those, and they're pretty much self-sustaining. You know what I mean? They didn't beg anybody for anything. But I just want to point that out to you relative to people who think that because they reclaim the birth certificate, that these people ain't going to claim jurisdiction.
And they use the guise of the whole compound being one address also.
Yes, exactly. Keep that in mind. Now let's get to the mock trial. He's the prosecutor. He's the defendant. He's the judge.
It's not just it's not Moorish Science Temple only, it's not any other faction. It's the Moorish Divine and National Movement of Church, which of course was established by, of course, who bought nationality. I don't say he bought it to us because we always had it, we just didn't know we had it. He bought
motor vehicle violations and different things like that. And so everybody can see how it plays out. Now, if it seems unorganized and it seems choppy, trust me, that's just exactly how municipal court is. So, you're really getting a real good look at what's actually taking place. All right, Your Honor, we have defendant John Smith versus the state of New Jersey. Defendant has multiple traffic violations, driving with a suspended license, carrying fraudulent documents, obstruction of justice. Defendant actually became violent and assaulted police officers as well. So defendant actually put in a special request to actually challenge the jurisdiction of the court. So, you know, I'm not pretty sure about that. So, we're just going to proceed with this traffic violations. Just pause. By the way, I've actually seen the prosecutor say these things, so I'm just going over it. Sorry. So, defendant.
The judge will speak now, because you're speaking to the judge. The judge will speak.
Okay, can you state your name for the record, sir?
For the record and on the record, let the record show I am me.
Okay, who is me? Right here, I got your legal name as John F. Wayne. Right
For the
here.
record and on the record, let the record show I am me. With all due respect, my honor, I have a question for you.
Okay, what are you doing in my courtroom if I'm right here in front of me, your name is John F. Wayne, so what are you doing in my courtroom?
Once again, I have a question for you, Your Honor.
Question, sir.
My question, my honor, is this a court of common law?
This is the municipal court of Bronx County, sir.
With all due respect, this being a municipality, meaning that it's a private corporation, and I, sir, am not a corporation, then I respectfully ask this court, where do you derive your power to judge a national that is protected by treaty and common law?
Sir, we're not here to discuss that. I'm the Honorable Judge Nico, and you're under my municipal court of Bronx County.
For the record and on the record, let the record show, my honor, what is your nationality?
Prosecutor?
Yeah, they usually throw back like that, yeah.
John F. Wayne, is it true that you were traveling in Bronx County and 169th Street doing 50 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour?
Objection. Who is John F. Wayne? And you're dealing with subject matter. We haven't gotten past status. I don't know who you people are, and I don't know what kind of court this is. So I don't know I don't know how to defend myself.
Is your name John F. Wayne?
No, it is not. And I've already told the court I am not.
What is your name, sir?
I am me.
What is your name, sir?
I am me.
Point is, he's saying he has no name.
The reason being is because a municipality or a traffic court is a corporation, all right? And you are flesh and blood. Therefore, giving your name will automatically be put in a corporate form on the record, unless you verify. The problem is, we can't get past status. If there's no status determined,
There's no jurisdiction.
then there's no jurisdiction.
May I ask, why are you asking him for his nationality? I know why, but why are you asking him and he deflecting it, not wanting to answer it? What are you trying to get to at that point?
The reason why I asked him for his nationality is because, remember, we're Aboriginal and indigenous to this country. So what I'm trying to determine is how does he derive his authority to even judge a national in a national's home country? See, so now he told me he was Irish. Then I would ask him, how does an Irish national have the authority to judge a Moorish national in his own country? By what code of law do you derive that authority to even attempt to deal with me on that level?
Understood.
And keep in mind while he's talking, that states can't make treaties. And so they can't even treat with them, actually, because it's a state court. So keep that in mind. So the proper venue, even before you get past the status, the proper venue would be a court of general sessions. All right? It wouldn't even necessarily be an Article 3 court in the general concept that people see it. Just keep that in mind. And then that's in your mind while you're talking. Keep that in mind.
Order of general sessions, excuse me. Explain that a little bit.
General
General sessions.
General sessions would be more or less congressional or House of Representatives, meaning it's even superior to your actually delegated courts, because now you're dealing with country to country. And so people need to understand that country does not just mean distance. Foreign doesn't mean distance. Foreign means alien to a principle. Do you understand? And then you can still have different countries that are operating at the same time in the same territory. This is where you have the distinctions, or what you call diversity of law, diversity of citizenship issue, like in federal be 12b6 or something like that, you know, diversity of citizenship, etc., which automatically make it a diverse issue of diversity or conflict of law. But then there's a common law that we both use, and that's where the Constitution comes in. That's why the judge took his oath to it. And then you've got the evidence right here. So now, you know, if he's not willing to deal with the proper venue, he can't get. That's why he won't answer to the status, because he already know that he has no jurisdiction. He's trying to get you to walk into the jurisdiction with your conversation. And this is also why it's important for you to understand what nationality is for. Because you need to know the power of nationality if it's used right, because that's the basis or foundation from which all your documentation and your arguments actually come from. And when you forget that, you start thinking he's a sovereign in an area, or he has jurisdictional power in an area that didn't reside with him, even if he was acting legitimate. And this is the whole point. Forget the fact that he's acting under color. Even acting in proper venue, he would have to have a court of general sessions. No, you see, if you're a national, you understand, you state your position. And a consular, and this is why you have consular will be there, you understand, to back you up. This is why when you all come in here, you sign. Meanwhile, you all must get your concepts together, because you will have to come to each other's aid. Don't look at yourself as sitting there as students or learners. You must become just who you say you are. Because in fact, when you start to become national, as you are right now, in this type of situation, every one of you are ministers and consuls. You are. But then you must understand that, really, not just say that. And it can't be bought. Somebody can't sell it to you in a package.
Okay, so when you reach the impasse, he makes the determination for general.
He does. Now, what you're really going to ask the judge is to do what he knows is right by law. So first he's coming from there, but remember, all other things that he's going to say will be in his documentation. He's going to prosecute.
Oh, here.
All right. So he, just like he addresses the judge, he's going to address the judge. Okay. Now he addressed the prosecutor already when they were in the back. All right. Go ahead.
I just want to add, he said most of the time when it's happening is that they'll either dismiss it if they come hard as he's doing, or they'll give you another date to continue it. Right. So they can try to figure out how to ascertain how to deal with it.
And then they'll switch the prosecutor and sometimes switch the judge.
They did to me. They're going to switch the prosecutor and act like they never received your paperwork. They play it.
But the way they started doing the state of New Jersey now is they starting, man, they don't want to hear none of that.
State of New Jersey, they just knocked me out there.
State of New Jersey, they'll try to stick it to you. So this is just an example of what they're coming. All right. Your Honor, here's a copy of the defendant's driver's license. Here's the signature right here. There's his picture. Again, I ask you, sir, what is your name?
As I've stated on the record, for the record, let the record show, I am me. Your Honor, my Honor, may I ask you another question? Since this is a municipality, and that thus it being a contract court, all right, other than that document right there, which I have not seen, now please see that document.
There you go, sir.
My Honor, this document does not represent me in any way, shape, or form. And therefore, since I have no contract with the state of New Jersey, all right, I demand that this case be dismissed for lack of jurisdiction or venue. You have not gotten past status, and I don't know why I was kidnapped and brought here against my will. Please dismiss this case. My Honor.
prosecutor will jump up and say, or try to minimize what he's saying and try to prosecute anyway.
Prosecutor, you have anything you'd like to add
And then sometimes the judge will start talking smack.
with this guy's claim?
So we just gotta all pretend we don't like this guy. We want to book him. So that's not your signature, sir?
No, it is not.
Is that your picture?
No, it is not.
So this is not a picture of John Wayne.
I don't know who that is. I told you, I am not him.
My honor, your honor, this it looks like it to me. The defendant was also found with forged documents.
Now, give me the mic. Let's take what's happening. At this point, this is for all you all. Since the prosecutor introduced that to the judge and in the case, and he had to ask to see it, under the rule of discovery, he didn't have a chance to really analyze it. So now what you can say, well, can I have a copy of this and all other things that you have under the rule of discovery? And I'm going to take this to my counsel and the linguist, and so that my counsel and my tribe, and my nation can go over these legal matters and see what your claims are here. At that same time, the court can't proceed. Because he has a right to take, under the rule of discovery, all his documents and everything else that they got, that they're making a surety claim on, so he can go examine them. And he makes no conclusions here from here on. Anything that's introducing you at the desk that you didn't see before you got here is violating the rule of discovery, because that's broadsiding. You know, so I didn't see this before. Huh?
The treaty is laying that out.
Yes, but I'm just saying, you keep this in mind, this is for everyone. When they start, giving stuff to the judge, and the judge start talking trash, especially if he start acting like he's not a referee, and start saying things to you that make you feel, you're throwing marbles at me, aren't you? Something like that. That ain't fair, I thought you were the referee. I have the oath here, and your oath of ethics here. Aren't you supposed to make sure that the law is carried out properly for both sides? It sounds to me like you being a member of the Bar Association and him being a member of the Bar Association, and you being an officer of the court and he being an officer of the court, and then you're both beating up on me. Don't you think you should recuse yourself? This is how you talk to them intelligently, but you're talking this to the judge. And isn't that both a violation of due process to which you're bound in any issues about, whether the Constitution is suspended or not? You got an oath here.
Plus,
I'm holding you to that.
Plus he's practicing law from the bench.
Yeah, of course he's practicing law from the bench, but you're saying it without,
without saying it.
Yes, because you get it on the record. And of course, anytime you speak, you always say for the record.
Right.
And then go on. But remember this, but mainly what I want you to remember is when the prosecutor introduces stuff to the judge, and they're talking trash, and he goes, oh yeah, well let me just show you this. But no, you don't have to show me anything. Give me everything you got in discovery, and I'll take it to my counsel, so I can see what you got going on here.
Because I'm entitled to it as a matter of law.
No, as a matter of law, I have a right to examine this because this is evidence.
Not examine.
And it's not even marked as evidence.
He's entitled to a copy of it.
That's the rule of discovery. And he should have had it before he was sitting in that chair. And since they did, that's a violation of process.
So couldn't you object to that?
Of course you object, but you object, and then you tell the judge what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Under the rule of discovery, bill of particulars. This stuff, was that state's license, because it's never his.
Yeah.
See, so it can't be his license because he has the right to travel.
Right.
That's substantial. And all the state is made a contract to steal the right. So that's their instrument. That they made a name that you didn't make that name. That's theirs. So they yours anything, like you said.
Plus the license is they call state property anyway.
Yes, it's state property. It ain't his. So I just remind you that, all right? So keep in mind that under the rule of discovery, you have the right at that time to, I don't need to look at this and reply to this. Under the rule of discovery, I don't even have time to examine this. So that means you're not allowing me a due process to prepare a defense. So give me under the rule of discovery, give me everything you got there. And I'll see you, let me see, I've got something to do. How about Thursday after Christmas? And you make your own date, don't let them set dates. Because they violate now, so in your court. Now you got to write the bat like you want to bat. But make sure that you don't set the date or the time when things are in retrograde. And any planets are in retrograde. Or is an unfavorable time. But then you're supposed to already know that anyway, because since you Great Seal, you're charted, because you navigate.
All right, so we got to get a chart.
You always have a chart of yourself. And you understand that they're Masons. And this is what everybody has to understand. They're Skull and Bones. They're Knights Malta, Knights Templar. You understand? Kyclos, Union Guard. They already know the law. That's why they always set these things up to screw you. And remember this, you don't have to convince them of anything. Our problem is convincing our people to stop being Negroes. Which is the property. That's the problem. See, the people got to stop thinking they're not the problem. These people out here are the problem. You get right, they can't operate. And remember this, this is back to the principle. Even with this resistance, right? Now, when we open, that's why we qualify. And we're being pseudo, we're not really being formal. We're just giving some scenarios to give you the reasons why certain things are said and why we may come at it from different angles. Like Nico was saying, we come from different angles. You must understand that everything that you do is built off a principle. And understand, if you know the principles, even if you come from a different angle, your eye is on a principle that doesn't change or pass away. I mean, truth don't change or pass away, and so therefore you must know yourself. And you must know that the U.S. democracy is an occupational government, and it's under the authority of provost marshals in the different districts, just like the IRS and the Federal Reserve got this thing district up. The provost marshal is the same. And the other reason why we always say to you, whenever you're doing documentation, always do carbon copies at the bottom. This is so that they have to conspire. Because remember, if you issue documents to me, right, and I'm the sheriff, or I'm a judge or prosecutor, if it's just addressed to me, I can bury it. But if I see on here the Attorney General of the United States, Provost Marshal of the district, you might even want to send one to the governor, whatever. And then you say, well, that's not relevant, but it is. See, so now they got to call each other. Did you get this paper? Yeah. As soon as they even mention it, it's conspiracy.
You sent one to the Attorney General on the corporate side, you might want to send one to the Solicitor General on the organic side.
It's exactly correct. Make sure they hear it. Attorney General and the Solicitor General.
Right.
Right? All right? You got that? I want to make sure, I want that on the...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, once again,
You got to speak it up loud.
And explain why, brother.
Okay. If you send one to the Attorney General, he is handling all the law
On one side.
on one side of the corporate side, the corporate jurisdiction. You send the same document to the Solicitor General, because he's dealing with the Republic and dealing with the organic and the natural side with respect to law.
Yes. And the reason and again, I'm going to remind you, the reason why you do this is because, and remember, the more conscious you get, your court clerks, etc., and more the court clerks got more power than the judges that are sitting there. So don't you get confused about that, just because you see that court clerk group and all innocent. You know what I mean? They're the hub that spins the wheels with everybody that's involved in that process. But the deal of it is, the reason you do that, again, I'll remind you, is so they have to conspire as soon as they start talking about your case. And so you also got them in the future for conspiracy. I just remind you, so you set them up while they're setting you up.
Your Honor, it's clear that the defendant does not want to cooperate. The reason we went with the identity, sorry about that. The reason I keep going with the identity is because you have to establish the identity of the individual you're dealing with before you can start to adjudicate. A lot of times they'll adjudicate passive. I just want to focus in on that aspect and see all the different angles you can comfortable with asserting who you are, your nationality, your status, and different things like that. Your Honor, it's clear the defendant does not want to cooperate. He's denied clear evidence of who he is. Let me ask you, sir, if you're not John F. Wayne, who are you?
Once again, on the record, for the record, let the record show, I am me.
Excuse me, sir. Who is
objection.
Who is me, sir?
I am me. This court does not have the authority to address a natural person. This is the court of corporation. This is the court of contract. I have no court of contract. The judge has not shown me his delegation of authority, nor his oath of office.
$5,000 in fines, and he has
objection. Status has not been taken. Objection. Status has not been
municipal violations. He has a speeding ticket, 55 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone.
Objection. Due process has not been
in the state of New York.
Objection.
He also has
due process
various
has not been observed in this court.
As well, sir. So, yeah, we can get this thing going because we have other people we need to get to. Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
A man cannot plead, my honor. And by the way, do you have your oath of office and your delegation of authority on the record in this court at this particular time?
I got a copy.
You have a copy?
Yes, and the prosecutor's oath too, and the oath of ethics.
Okay.
That's 1, 2, 3 exhibits.
Well, due to the law of discovery, I have not seen these documents ahead of time. Therefore, I have no way of looking at these documents and checking their validity with my counsel.
Well, sir, I'll have to get back to you on documents.
Okay, then you're saying that this case is dismissed.
Normally, when you start getting like that, the bailiff will come up, you know.
Yeah.
When they do, you address the judge and tell him, this man is threatening me, you won't let this take place in your court? Which means, are you conspiring with him? Well, Title 18's in order, isn't it?
Call the marshal 1242?
Provost Marshal, yeah.
Can we take this moment, Title 18, it's a small thing to actually read what Title 18 is, because a lot of people may not be aware of it. Does anybody have it on? Title 18?
Let me see.
Yeah, 241,
Title 18, Section 241 is a defamation of rights. 242 is the conspiracy to deprive one of his rights. But we're going to get the actual wording on it.
If I have to, I don't know if I have to.
Another thing I like to emphasize, when you're in the court and you're challenging the persona subject matter and you're trying to railroad you in the pleading, as he had mentioned earlier, with the clerk of court, you want to make sure you have everything on record. So when you bring up all these issues, that when you're cross-examining the prosecution and the judge, and they're trying to examine you and come at you with all this stuff, you have everything on record. So when it comes to appeals, you have something to work with.
Yes. Also, too, the fines was $5,000. Normally, you know, we're just doing a mock thing, so we're not trying to really take anybody in. But normally, with $5,000 of that kind of money that you owe, you know, they're going to try really hard to get that from you.
The thing is, because it's not Article 3 judge, it's a magistrate, 9 times out of 10, he's not even going to have the it's not even going to have anything on record.
And Brother Shane, you know about the old school technique for someone who really understands sovereignty? If you intend to go out when you came in, you actually walk in the court backwards. You know about the old school technique? No.
I know about that. Well, normally when you know, it's all about money, so, or not necessarily money, but finance. And if it's, there you go.
As a matter of law, is legally you're supposed to have a stenographer. But if you've got a tape recorder, that's illegal, isn't it? Isn't that denial of due process?
Hey, how come
How come in North Carolina they don't have no court records? No tape, no stenographer, no nothing?
Is it municipal court, superior court?
The judge is a district judge. It's the same thing as he takes care of.
District, federal court, federal district?
No, it's the city.
Right, so it's municipal, okay. Yeah, I mean, municipals are fraudulent. They don't have to have all of the same things that a federal court or superior court would have. You know, actually, a lot of times it's really, when people come in with that kind of information or they try to put that on the record and they argue their situation in that manner, it usually turns into a circus because a lot of individuals, they don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So 9 times out of 10, they're always, and this is the thing, they're really always 9 times out of 10 going to try to ignore you. Right. They're just going to always try to ignore you. That's the main thing, and just try to keep driving home their points and their issues. You see what I'm saying? So, and municipal court is normally just a circus, just like that. Everybody running around, putting paper. I mean, everybody's been in, so you pretty much know what it's like. But if anybody comes in with that particular kind of argument or case, it normally, just sends everybody haywire. Nobody really knows what to do. But because so many different individuals have been coming in there with those arguments, they become what you call hip to it. So they practice how to move around certain things. You know what I mean?
For example?
For example, I just used one of my partner's situation right now. When he had video recording, and he went in there and he was asserting his status to the judge and everything like that, even making them aware of the notices that were sent out and everything of that nature. But I was there with him. Well, I wasn't there with him because he was a vehicle, but I was in the court and I watched him. And I was counsel and I was verifying a lot of different information. But it basically came down, this is what he said, flat out. He said, well, it just seems like you don't want to pay your fines. That's what he said flat out. It just seems like you don't want to pay your fines.
You're guilty.
No, they ain't say guilty, he's just going to hold you contempt of court. They're held in contempt of court. So they'll do a lot of different things to, to just keep, right, just to try to threaten you and, keep on, adjudicating past all of the things that you're saying. So the strategy and the key to all of this stuff about the municipal situations that, you gotta get unified and organized outside of that so that you have a more uniform way of dealing with that when it takes place through class actions and suits and putting liens on their bonds. It's really the solution to that because once they kidnap you, you know what I mean, you're in there. That's just it.
Yeah, it's arbitrary.
Right.
Well, can't you waive that?
Huh?
Can't you waive it?
Can't you waive what?
Whatever fee or whatever.
You can do all of those different things. I'm just saying that a lot of what I've been seeing, my experience, because like I tell everybody from the beginning, I do this every day off of experience. Off of experience, straight off of experience, you can say and do whatever's necessary. You know what I mean? That you need to do to protect yourself legally based on the arguments you're making. But it's always going to come down to they got the guns.